Hey guys, welcome back. Okay, so in this lesson we will carry on where we left off from the last lesson. So in the last lesson we were able to fetch these to-dos from the backend API, right? So in this lesson we will start implementing the rest of the functionalities. For example, adding a new to-do, editing a to-do, and deleting a to-do, right? And we will do that by creating thunks so that we can deal with the side effects. And these are the side effects, right? They're not just the straightforward action creators, but rather asynchronous code that we need to run in the Redux store. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is clean up a little. Okay, so let's go back to our code editor and remove this cancel log from there. I also need to remove this endpoint because it doesn't make sense. The name of the method just says it all. Fetch list the to-dos. There's no point for me to accept an endpoint there, right? So I might as well just hardcode it. And yeah, this method is just responsible for fetching a list of to-dos. And then I'll just remove this. Okay. And everything should work exactly the same. Yep. Okay. So let's start with adding a new to-do. So for that, we will create a dedicated method here. And that's going to be async create new to-do. It will accept a to-do, okay, and then we'll get a response back. We need to specify the await keyword to accompany the async, okay, and we will say this API.post, and we need to post it to the API endpoint exactly the same as above, but we need to pass it a to-do item, and that should do it. And then we just return response.data, and we can also say return await response.data. Okay, so then it will wait for this to finish first, and then it will wait and return the data. Once we have this created, let's go back to our thunks. We need to create a dedicated thunk for this, and remember, thunk is just a function. So export const, and we will say create new API to do, and I'm trying to name it differently so that the name doesn't collide with the action creators and the methods in the API service class. Okay, otherwise JavaScript has problem with that. And we will say that this is an async function. And sorry about that, it needs to be a function which returns an async function which has an argument of dispatch. So this is, I am sure that I talked about it in the earlier videos, but this is basically a function which is returning another function. That's pretty much what it is. It's like something like this: function do something. I'm not going to pay attention to the spelling, and I will say arg1, right? And then I'll say return function from here as well, and I will say arg2 and then return something. Okay, so then when I need to call this, let me just correct that. So I will say do something, and arg1 will be something, and then something else. So that's what it is, this, okay? Just wanted to quickly show you how that would look like. Okay, so I'm going to just copy this and bring it over here, and then we will say await API service, and then create new to do. It will accept a to do here. Okay, so that means that we can now pass it here. Great. And then obviously the action creator that we need to dispatch is not going to be fetch to do's, but you guessed it, needs to be this one, create new to do from actions. Okay, so that looks good. Now let's go back to our to do item. No, sorry, not the to-do item, because we use the add new to-do form, right? Here, add new to-do. Yeah, that's the form. So rather than calling the action creator here, we will call the thunk. Okay, and I hope it's making sense now. This is going to be our flow, okay, for all these different functionalities. When we replace them, we will be calling thunk from the component rather than the action creator, because this is an asynchronous processing of data. Okay, and anything which is asynchronous, Redux by default can't handle it, so it needs to rely on a middleware like thunk. And that's pretty much it. Okay, so that means Once I create the new API to do, let's have a look. And here we need to pass that to do. And in fact, this is going to be to do item. And we will have to do item from here. Okay. So the thunk basically that we just used, it receives a to do item here. We do the API call. We pass that to do item, whatever comes back from the response. And remember, we're using async await, so this will wait till we get a response back, and then we just dispatch the action creator from here. And from that point onwards, it's the same workflow that we've been talking about. Okay, that means if I refresh and I say 1, and there we go, it's working as expected. So now that we are using API, that means I can refresh and it's still persisted. Great. So the next action we're going to look at would be deleting, right? So at the moment it is deleting, but it's only deleting items locally. It's not persisting anything on the database, or it's not deleting anything on the database. So let's start doing that. So come back again, exactly the same workflow. We go to the API service class, and here we'll just copy this and we will say delete to do. We will give it a to do, and the way it works is, let's have a look. So when you call a delete method on this URL, or when you want to update it, you just call this URL with the title and it will update it for you. And the same with the delete. Okay, so that's how it works. So here when I accept the to do, what I could do is I can say delete, and here I will pass it to do.url to do. Okay, and when you call this delete method, it only gives you back an integer as a data, so we don't really need, I mean, yes, we are in the API service class, we will still return it, but if you choose to, you don't have to. Okay, but I'll leave it there. So when we return, when this is successful, and when we return the response data, it will be like 1 or 0, depending on if it's been successful. Okay, that means now I need to go back to the thunks file, and I need to create a new thunk, and this will be delete API to do. Okay, and I will accept to do async dispatch. I'm going to copy this, make our life a bit easier, and this needs to be a constant. Okay, and here we will say, as I said, you know, the response that will come back from deleting a to do, we don't need that, so we're going to call delete to do. Once we call this method, we will pass it to do, and then we will simply take this to do and pass it on through the action creator, and then the reducer will do what it needs to do. Okay, so that's all we need to do here. Then we need to go back to our to do item. Yeah, okay, and rather than using this delete to do, we are going to use the thunk. So we will say import delete API to do from thunks, and then here we will say delete API to do. Okay, and yeah, we don't need to change anything else because we will leave everything intact, but we just replace the action creator with the thunk, and that's pretty much it. So let's have a look. Let's refresh. Let me delete the blah. Okay, it looks like we've made a mistake, and I'm sure you guys have seen it, but let's have a look. Yeah, so we don't create, but we rather delete, right? So this would be from actions delete. Okay, refresh, blah, and lovely. So the delete is working. If I refresh, yep. And if I say something more exciting, and I can come and delete, and it's all working as expected. Great. So adding to do, deleting to do, both out of the way. What should be our next? So let's handle this edit to do. Okay, let's go to our editor and start implementing that. So I will go to my API service class. Okay, and here I'll just copy this and paste, and I'll say edit to do, we need title and to do, okay? And here we need to use patch. So what patch will do, it will take the title, patch to do with that title, okay? So that's how we will update the title for to do. Again, we're going to be using the URL for the to do here, and if we call that with the title, in fact, if it needs to be an object, so I'll just pass it like that. So that means that title and then colon title. It needs to be like this, but because of the fact that both key and value are the same, so I can skip the value. Okay, there we go. Once we have patched to do with the right title, what do? Well, we just return the data back, okay? And that's going to be our to do item. So that means if I go back, so let's keep a track that we are passing title first and then to do. Let's go back to our thunks, copy this, paste. We will say edit API to do. It will accept title and to do, right? Then the API service we need the edit to do from there. We will pass the title and to do, and this will be, so once we patched to do, we will get an item back, to do item back, right? I can't name it to do because it will collide with this to do, so that's why I'm calling it to do item. And here I will say edit. Do I have, so let's have a look. What do we have? Fetch to do's from actions, and do we have edit or update? Yeah, so that's called update to do. Okay, so we will dispatch the action creator update to do, and we will pass it to do item. Okay, so that means now we need to go to the to do item, and we need to import edit API to do and replace the action creator with a thunk. And with any luck, that should work. So let's go back, update, double click, and seems like it is working, but yeah, it's not updating the item in our local store, right? So if I say ping, I press enter key, it has updated the title on the server, but it hasn't updated it on the local store. Okay, let's have a look. So we'll go back, let's have a look at edit API to do. Let's see what we get here. Console.log, and let's get to do item. Okay, and let's double click hello there. Yeah, so we get the item back with the updated title. So why is it not working? And if I say React learning, okay, so let's go back to our code editor and let's have a look at our reducer. Let's see what's going on. So let's go to our todos.js. Let's see, update to do. So what do? We expect title and to do from the payload. Okay, and then we map over. Oh, you know what? I think we're not passing the title, right? We're just passing to do item, and that's the problem. Okay, let's go back. Let's see. Yeah. So what we need to do really is, if I pass the title here, that should make it work, right? So again, there we go. That's what was happening. There is another way that you can deal with this is, for example, if we go back to reducer and the to-dos reducer, And here you can still check if it is the same to-do, then you splice the existing to-do item from the state and then add this to-do here, okay? But I'm going to leave it as it is for now, but you can certainly use splice function, the JavaScript, okay? Okay, so now that we've got deletion and adding new to-do working, I think we will finish the lesson here, and in the next lesson we will start implementing the toggling of to-do, toggle all, and the rest of the functionality. Okay guys, I'll see you in the next lesson.